A 17-year-old high school student just clocked **44. 10 seconds in the 400 meters **, defeating seasoned professional athletes in one of track and field's most demanding events. And when Michael Johnson **, widely regarded as the greatest 400-meter runner of all time, watched the performance unfold, his reaction surprised almost everyone. This is a man who has spent decades explaining just how unforgiving the one-lap sprint truly is, yet even he struggled to hide his admiration. We'll get to exactly what Johnson said in a moment. But first, you need to understand who Quincy Wilson really is. Because while the record itself is extraordinary, the journey that led to it is even more remarkable. Long before the headlines, before the Olympic gold medal, and before the history-making performance, there was a period when everything threatened to fall apart. And that's a part of the story most people haven't heard. Let's start from the beginning. Chesapeake, Virginia. A quiet American city. A close-knit family. Nothing about Quincy Wilson's early childhood immediately suggested that one day he would become one of the fastest teenagers the sport had ever seen. Athletic ability certainly ran through the family. His mother, Monique Wilson earned Hall of Fame honors in both soccer and basketball during her college career. His father, Roy Wilson played football at the United States Naval Academy. His older sister, Cadence developed into a collegiate track athlete at James Madison University. Sports were part of everyday life. But talent in the family doesn't automatically create a superstar. Every year, countless children grow up with athletic parents and never come close to the elite level. Genetics might open a door, but they don't guarantee what happens after that. What made Quincy's story different wasn't simply the talent he inherited. It was a decision his family made while he was still a young teenager. A decision that most parents would never even consider. They didn't just enroll him in another school nearby. They didn't simply hire a better coach. They packed up their entire lives. The Wilson family left Chesapeake, Virginia, and relocated to Potomac, Maryland, so Quincy could attend Butler School one of the country's strongest programs for developing elite track athletes. Their belief centered around one man, Coach Joe Lee They believed he had the knowledge, experience, and patience to help Quincy become something truly special. Think about what that commitment actually required. A new home, a new city, new schools, new routines, an entirely different life. All because his parents believed their son had the potential to achieve something extraordinary. That's an incredible vote of confidence. But it's also an enormous burden to place on a teenager who hasn't yet proven himself on the biggest stages. For a while, that pressure began to show. We'll come back to that, because before everything became difficult, Quincy Wilson was already producing performances that made experienced coaches stop and take notice. At just 14 years old, he accomplished something that sounded almost impossible. He broke Gobia Moore's national under 14 record in the 400 meters, a record that had survived for 3 decades. 30 years. Think about that. Most records at youth level eventually disappear. This one had resisted every talented youngster who came after it. Until Quincy Wilson. And he was still in middle school. The athletics community noticed immediately. People were impressed. But they were also cautious. Because history has taught them something important. Youth records don't always predict future greatness. Every generation produces teenagers who dominate their age group before fading away completely. Sometimes their bodies stop developing. Sometimes injuries intervene. Sometimes the pressure becomes too much. Sometimes life simply moves in another direction. It happens more often than people realize. So even though Quincy had broken a record that stood for 30 years, many experts weren't ready to crown him the future of American sprinting. Not yet. The message was simple. Show us you can do it against stronger competition. Show us you can perform when the stakes are higher. Show us it wasn't just one magical race under perfect conditions. That skepticism wasn't unfair. It was earned through decades of watching young prodigies disappear. Then Quincy started proving them wrong. But in doing so, another challenge emerged, one that nearly derailed everything before his career had truly begun. This is where Coach Joe Lee became invaluable. Remember, this was a coach the Wilson family had uprooted their entire lives to wake with. And unlike many coaches who handle teenage phenoms, Joe Lee refused to rush the process. He understood that developing a champion wasn't about chasing headlines every weekend. It was about protecting the athlete behind the talent. While others might have entered Quincy into every major meet available, Lee carefully controlled his schedule. He knew when to push. He knew when to rest. He understood that long-term development mattered far more than short-term attention. Even when critics questioned why Quincy wasn't racing more often, even when social media demanded bigger performances, even when results temporarily dipped. Jolie stayed patient. That patience rarely makes headlines. It isn't flashy. It doesn't create viral moments. But without it, what happened later might never have been possible. There's another detail about Quincy Wilson that reveals far more about his personality than any race result ever could. After competing at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games with millions watching around the world and his name suddenly appearing across international headlines, a reporter asked him an obvious question. How are you going to celebrate? Most people expected a glamorous answer. A big party, a family vacation, dinner with sponsors, media appearances. Instead, Quincy smiled and gave the most ordinary teenage response imaginable. I just want to go home and play Call of Duty with my friends. That's who Quincy Wilson really is. Not a celebrity pretending to be a teenager. A teenager who unexpectedly became an Olympic champion. Paris 2024 changed everything. At only 16 years old Quincy earned selection to the United States men's 4x400 meter relay pool making him the youngest male track and field Olympian in American history. Think about that achievement. For more than 128 years American men had competed in Olympic track and field. No one had ever represented the country at a younger age. During the relay preliminaries, Quincy ran the opening leg. The nose were obvious. His split of 47, 27 seconds wasn't close to his personal best. But it didn't need to be. The United States qualified. For the final, the coaching staff made changes, and Quincy wasn't included in the running order. His teammates went on to secure Olympic gold, which meant Quincy Wilson officially became an Olympic champion. Before graduating high school, take a moment to appreciate how unbelievable that sounds. Imagine sitting in class the following week, working on homework, knowing there's already an Olympic gold medal waiting for you at home. From that moment onward, life changed completely. Every meet attracted larger crowds. Every entry list generated excitement. Every race became national news. The expectations surrounding Quincy Wilson skyrocketed almost overnight. And that's exactly when the hardest chapter of his journey began. Because there's a massive difference between being a talented prodigy everyone enjoys watching and becoming the athlete everyone expects to deliver every single time. In 2025 Quincy Wilson discovered just how unforgiving those expectations could become. The year started badly. Very badly. In January, at the Virginia Showcase, Quincy entered the 500 meters a race many expected him to dominate. Instead, fellow high school athlete Andrew Salvador produced the race of his life. Salvador crossed the line in 1:01. 49 **. Quincy finished in 1:02. 49 **. A defeat by 2 full seconds. For most teenagers, that would simply be another race. For Quincy Wilson, it became national conversation. The internet reacted exactly as it usually does. The same voices that had praised him only months earlier suddenly questioned whether the hype had ever been justified. Then came the outdoor season. Things didn't improve. He lost again. And again. Major meets slipped away. Most painfully of all, he failed to qualify for the 2025 World Championships **. Think about that for a second. An Olympic gold medalist, unable to make the World Championship team 1 year later. The criticism intensified. Even current Olympians began publicly suggesting that Quincy needed a break from competition. Some feared he was being overworked. Others warned that burnout was becoming a genuine concern. Fans grew anxious. Experts became divided. The doubters felt completely vindicated. And through all of it, Quincy Wilson was still just 17 years old trying to finish his final year of high school while the entire athletics world debated whether his career had already peaked. Imagine carrying that weight. Most young athletes would panic. They'd overhaul everything. Change coaches. Change training. Change routines. Search desperately for immediate answers. Quincy Wilson chose a different path. He trusted the process. He returned to Coach Jolie. He returned to the fundamentals. He kept working. And what happened next in Memphis changed the conversation forever. Before we continue, tell me in the comments. When Quincy struggled throughout 2025, did you believe he'd bounce back? Or did you think the pressure had finally caught up with him? I'm genuinely curious. Then came July the 13th, 2025 The Ed Murphy Classic in Memphis, Tennessee. This wasn't a high school championship. This wasn't a junior event. This was a professional meeting featuring experienced international athletes. Among them was Bryce Dedmon one of America's fastest 400-meter specialists and a veteran of elite competition. Quincy settled into lane 5. The gun fired. He attacked the opening 200 meters with confidence, stayed relaxed around the final bend, then exploded down the home straight. The clock stopped at 44. 10 seconds. The stadium erupted because everyone watching understood exactly what they had witnessed. To fully appreciate that number, you need context. 44. 10 seconds wasn't just another personal best. It became the fastest 400-meter time ever recorded by an athlete under the age of 18. Not in America. Not this season. In the entire history of the event. Anywhere in the world, no athlete under the age of 18 had ever run faster. Not once. Not anywhere in the world. And somehow, that wasn't even the most astonishing part. Because 10 seconds also became the second fastest 400-meter performance ever recorded by any athlete under the age of 20. Take a moment to think about what that actually means. This wasn't simply a teenager dominating his own age group. This was a teenager producing times that place him alongside some of the greatest young sprinters the sport has ever witnessed. But the numbers become even more unbelievable when you compare them against the rest of the world. Across the entire 2025 season, regardless of age, experience, or reputation, only 3 people ran faster. That's it. Professional athletes in their physical prime. Men whose entire careers revolve around perfecting one lap of the track. Olympians. World Championship finalists. Elite specialists who spend every day training for one event. And standing among them was a 17-year-old high school student. 4th fastest in the world. Not 4th fastest among juniors. 4th fastest. Period. Even more impressive was how he won. There was no dramatic late comeback. No desperate dive at the finish line. No fortunate mistake from another runner. Quincy Wilson controlled the race from the opening strides. He established his rhythm early, stayed relaxed through the backstretch, maintained complete composure around the final bend, then accelerated away as though victory had never been in doubt. It looked less like a teenager trying to survive against professionals, and more like a champion reminding everyone exactly who he was. The reaction inside the stadium was immediate. Fans rose to their feet before the clock had even confirmed the official time. Social media exploded within minutes. One spectator wrote they had never witnessed a teenager dominate experienced professionals with such confidence from the front. Another described it as one of the greatest performances the sport had ever seen. Not one of the greatest youth performances. One of the greatest track and field performances. Full stop. Then came the reaction everyone was waiting for. Michael Johnson. For years, Johnson owned the 400 meters. His world record stood as a benchmark every sprinter chased. More importantly, few people understand the brutality of the event better than he does. Johnson has spent decades explaining that the 400 meters punishes every weakness. It exposes poor tactics. It destroys runners who misjudge their pace. It demands speed, endurance, discipline, and mental strength all at the same time. So when someone like Michael Johnson acknowledges a performance, people pay attention. Watching Quincy Wilson produce 44:10, Johnson saw something far bigger than a fast teenager. He saw a once-in-a-generation athlete, the kind of talent that only appears every decade if the sport is fortunate enough to produce one at all. And suddenly, everything that had happened just months earlier looked completely different. Remember January. Remember the losses. Remember the criticism. Remember the people saying the pressure had become too much. Remember those headlines questioning whether the hype had been exaggerated. The same teenager who had been written off. The same athlete critics claimed was burning out. The same high school student people believed had already reached his ceiling. Had just become the fastest under 18 400-meter runner in the history of the sport. History has a funny way of answering criticism. But perhaps the most impressive part of Quincy Wilson's story wasn't the race itself. It was what happened afterward. Because moments like this often change people. Records create attention. Attention creates ego. Success creates temptation. This was the biggest achievement of his young career. The stadium erupted. His coach reportedly celebrated by popping champagne on the infield. Appropriate, considering Quincy himself was still too young to legally drink it. Every camera wanted his reaction. Every interviewer wanted a quote. Fans expected a celebration. Instead, Quincy Wilson opened Instagram and posted just 3 simple words. On to the next one. That was it. No emotional speech. No message for the doubters. No celebration aimed at critics. No dramatic reflection about overcoming adversity. Just 3 words. Then he returned to work. Those 3 words reveal more about Quincy Wilson than any stopwatch ever could. That's a teenager whose parents moved their entire family because they believed in his future. That's the Olympic gold medalist who celebrated by playing Call of Duty with his friends. That's the athlete who endured months of public criticism without abandoning the process. No panic, no excuses, no shortcuts, just quiet confidence. On to the next one. And that's precisely why the future should concern everyone else competing in the 400 meters. Because Quincy Wilson is only getting started. He's still incredibly young. His body hasn't fully matured. His physical prime hasn't arrived. In fact, according to sports science, elite 400-meter runners usually produce their absolute best performances somewhere between their mid-20s and late 20s. Quincy Wilson has nearly a decade of development still ahead of him, which brings us to the number that has haunted the event for more than 25 years. 43:18 seconds. Michael Johnson's legendary world record. Set in 1999, a performance so extraordinary that generations of world-class sprinters have chased it without success. For over a quarter of a century, nobody has seriously threatened it. Now consider this. Quincy Wilson has already reached 44, 10 before turning 18. Do the mathematics. Look at the trajectory. Imagine another 7 or 8 years of physical development. Imagine stronger muscles, greater endurance, more international experience, better race management, peak athletic maturity. Then imagine that athlete standing on the biggest stage in the sport. Suddenly,